Yes, question of the day. Okay, Lyle, I don't know why I'm so excited about this one. Okay, the question that has come in is, what is a Jesuit?
Okay, so this is an interesting question. A lot of people have been asking this in the last few years because, of course, Pope Francis is a Jesuit. So a Jesuit is a member of the Society of Jesus, which is an order within the Roman Catholic Church. And so just to consider the history of this particular order, where it is and why so many people are particularly interested in it, is not just because our current Pope is a Jesuit, it's because this is an order that has been very controversial down through history.
Yeah, and you say where it is. I know where it is. It's everywhere. Sorry, go on.
Okay, so let me give you a brief rundown of some history of the Jesuit order. It was founded in the year 1534 by a man by the name of Ignatius Loyola. He was a Spanish general. He was wounded in battle so that he could never fight again. And so he decided to form a paramilitary wing of the Roman Catholic Church. A deeply spiritual wing. It was, they had the spiritual exercises, of course, of Ignatius Loyola are very famous today and used by a lot of evangelical churches even. But this was initially, it was a paramilitary wing. Its purpose was to get rid of heretics. And so this is at the time when the Great Reformation of the 16th century is springing up. Protestants are exploding throughout the world in much the same way as we've been talking about in the book of Acts. Christianity has been exploding. Protestantism is doing this. And so they create this new order of extremely intelligent people, of extremely dedicated people. It begins fairly small, but then its numbers explode and it goes throughout the whole world. It becomes incredibly controversial because it involves itself very, very deeply in politics, in bloodshed, in secret operations, behind the scenes maneuvering, regime change. All of these kind of things were things that the Jesuit order became involved in.
So it's kind of like doing the dirty work of the church. The church wish it could do, but...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it still describes that today as that, the Jesuits are sent to all of the problem areas in the world. That's their specialty. Now, of course, if we come down to the year 1773, the Jesuits had become so powerful by that year and so out of control throughout the whole world that they were actually banned by the Roman Catholic Church.
Whoa.
Yes, that's a pretty heavy move by the Catholic Church.
What do you mean out of control?
Well, they were
Just taking over.
Okay, yeah. And the Catholic Church was like, well, actually, the Catholic Church came under a lot of diplomatic pressure from many, many countries around the world and said, you need to rein these guys in. And it was creating so much bad press, and the Catholic Church was in such a bad state at this particular period that in an effort to recoup, some level of credibility, they banned the Jesuit order. The problem is that the Jesuit order is a secret society. It's very difficult to ban a secret society. Not only that, but being a paramilitary organisation, it doesn't have that direct organic connection that some orders have with the Catholic Church.
So they went rogue.
They went rogue. They went underground. They came back in the year 1814, and of course it was Pius the Seventh who restored them in the year 1814. And of course they've been around ever since. Now the interesting thing with the Jesuits, I'll just read this statement here. This comes from a historian who wrote The Power and Secret of the Jesuits by Rene Philip Miller. He said, "Never before in the course of the world's history had such a society appeared. The old Roman Senate itself did not lay schemes for world domination with greater certainty of success." And so, of course, the Jesuits took a much longer-term view of success and world domination than any other society that existed that's promoting the idea of globalism. And so they concentrated their efforts on education. Now, as we've been noticing over the last couple of Bible studies, education is the most powerful force that there is in the world today. Because if you can change the education of a country in one generation, you've changed that whole society. And of course, the Jesuits recognized this, and of course, they set up schools throughout the world. And so as a result of that, if we look at where we are in our world today, major political leaders, typically about a third of our front bench here in Australia, studied in Jesuit schools. In the United States, you have a very similar situation. If you, Donald Trump studied in a Jesuit school. If you go to Barack Obama, his Chicago mentor, Gregory Galuzzo, was a former Jesuit priest. His speechwriter, John Favreau, was Jesuit trained. His senior military and foreign policy advisor, J. Scott Gratian, was Jesuit trained. His deputy communications director, Dan Pfeiffer, was Jesuit trained. His vice president, Joe Biden, former chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, first Roman Catholic to be vice president, holds a degree from Scranton Jesuit University, and of course his son was a paid lobbyist for Scranton. You know, we could go on and on and on. You could go back through the Clinton eras, you could go back through the Bush eras, and you're going to find all of these same connections. And of course now they have actually have their own the Pope, who is a Jesuit. In the past, of course, you've always had sort of the two popes, the Black Pope and the Pope that we see. The Black Pope was the Jesuit general. Of course, he comes under, has a military title because this is a paramilitary organization.
And it's not just politicians, there's also a bunch of celebrities that are Jesuit trained as well. And we have Jesuit...
The impact on our world is just remarkable.
Are we naive to think that these Jesuits aren't up to something still?
Okay, so if you study the history of the Jesuits, you can find a tremendous amount of good that has been done in many, many countries by many, many Jesuits.
Because they do have charities.
They have some wonderful charities. They've done a lot of good. They have, brought a lot of benefit to many parts of the world. But then you have another aspect of this particular order, which is incredibly political. And this is where the problem comes in. Whenever you get a mixture of religion and politics together, you're going to have a disaster. And so you've got some records in places, like China and so forth, that are just absolutely horrific. How they would go in there and just, wipe out the previous knowledge of Christianity and establish their brand of Christianity. There is a reason why so much diplomatic pressure came on the Vatican to actually ban this organization. Abraham Lincoln himself spoke about, expelling the entire order from the United States when he was in power. And so, yes, there's a political side to this that has a very nasty underbelly. And of course, there is another side that we see more often, which is focused on, doing a lot of good things in the world. So we can't say that they're all bad. Can't say that they're all good. They're a human organisation that's a little bit scary.
But they are out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got to keep that in prayer. Thank you so much for answering that, Lyle. Of course, if you have a question, you can contact us here at Faith FM. Our number is 1-800-324-843. You can even text your questions to 0491 064 669. Send us all the questions you got.